How's it going, everyone? I'm Keegs, and today we're going to be talking about Moon Knight Episode 5, and my god, this was a heavy one. I called it in my last episode, which you can click up here if you're interested, that there must be some kind of childhood trauma in order to create this dissociative identity disorder that Marc has. But before I go any further, I want to say that we're going to be talking about everything from this last episode, so spoiler warning. Now, I'm a little surprised that Jake Lockley did not appear in this episode. I thought for sure he was going to come in and kind of break out of his coffin and then free Marc and Steven from the asylum that they were in. But that's not at all how it went down. This was a very Marc and Steven focused episode, and they really brought in the childhood trauma and kind of showed Steven exactly what he was not able to process before, and the reason that Steven was created in the first place. And it was actually a lot worse than I expected it to be. You knew that when he brought his brother into that cave, that, okay, the brother's probably going to die, and now Marc is going to blame himself forever, and also to kind of repress that memory, he's going to create Steven. But that did happen, but that wasn't really the reason that he invented Steven. That was terrible and tragic, but after that, his mother became highly abusive and blamed him for the deaths, and whether or not it was his fault, the kid was like 8 years old, and you just really, it's just so messed up to have that kind of parent, and it's really hard to watch. So I definitely found this episode very tense, very sad, and you just really felt bad for Marc. And as soon as the first time that Steven appeared, it was kind of heartbreaking to watch the mother come in and him as a small young child pretend to be someone that he's not. Then his mother died, and that's actually why his mind kind of broke the barrier in between Marc and Steven, and Marc really couldn't process it or handle it in an appropriate way, so he essentially just threw Steven in the driver's seat and said, "Here you go, Steven, you're in control now," and he retreated himself into his own mind and did not want to be himself right then. So it was kind of interesting, and you saw that as soon as that happened, Steven just put the phone up to his face and said, "Hey mom, how's it going?" and started talking to his mom and everything. So it definitely makes sense now why Layla said, "You're talking to your mom again?" And he was like, "Yeah, I have a great relationship with my mom." But she knew that he did not obviously have a good relationship with his mom, but clearly she didn't know anything really about his mom and how abusive his mom was when he was a kid, which also kind of is interesting because when his mom died, by that point, he was already Moon Knight, and he was already doing his, he already got married to Layla. So this was it was just way more recently than I thought it was going to be, which I guess would make sense because that's where it picks up in episode 2, and here we are now. But yeah, a lot of backstory, a lot of heavy themes, and it was a great episode, though. I think that Oscar Isaac is doing a fantastic job as Moon Knight and Marc Spector and Stephen Grant and all the personality stuff. I think he's done a really good job, and you can really feel the emotion within him. The episode was structured very interestingly too, because he was in the asylum, but he was actually on the boat, and every time something got too stressful for him on the boat, he retreated into his own mind further, and he envisioned Arthur Harrow as his therapist, which I found a little bit funny, that out of all the people, this is the one you choose to give you therapy in your own mind. I guess because you view them as the bad guy, because his mind is trying to get him and Steven to, get on the same page and balance their heart, as they would kind of say. And I guess he would view that as an enemy that's trying to get him to confront his past. So to confront his past, he had to go to all these memories and childhood traumas and stuff, but we also did get to see the actual origin of Moon Knight and how he became Moon Knight. And we know his CO, they name dropped Bushman, and then that was his CO when he was in the military, and when he got out, he became a mercenary, and that was his partner. Obviously, Bushman betrayed him, shot him, left him for dead, killed everybody else, and he crawled his way into Khonshu's little sanctuary there, and Khonshu kind of preyed on him and preyed on the weak, as they mentioned. And this dude was obviously dying, and Khonshu asked him to be his avatar. And that's how he ends up becoming Moon Knight. He gets healed, and all those healing properties come back. But it's just kind of interesting to see how Khonshu pretty much manipulated him. And I think they say somewhere in there that Khonshu's kind of been watching Marc for a while now. So I think longer than he was crawling into Khonshu's lair, but more so like throughout his life, he's been keeping an eye on people that might make good suitors for Khonshu to become the avatar of. So yeah, one of Khonshu's powers is straight up resurrection. And this has answered a question that I've had from the very start of the series, was if Khonshu leaves him, does Marc die because he was dead before? Like, now he was definitely shot and definitely killed. Now, if Khonshu leaves him and he loses that power, does he die? But no, when Khonshu resurrects someone, they come back to life completely, and then Khonshu's like hands off, and he doesn't need to do anything. He's resurrected them. That's the power. In Marc's case, he's been shot, so he's going to be resurrected. When he becomes Moon Knight again, he's going to get healed, and those healing properties heal him. It's not like a temporary patch while he has the powers of Khonshu. That is something that he retains even if Khonshu leaves him. Steven learns that he is actually the made-up one in Marc's mind, which he kind of has a little breakdown about, but, you know, he kind of gets over it at the end and saves Marc using the fighting skills of Marc. Steven uses Marc's fighting skills because they're the same body, so theoretically they should know the same stuff, but unfortunately he does fall overboard there and get dragged down to Egyptian hell, whereas Marc goes to Egyptian heaven, which is interesting that his scales balanced then. So I'm not sure if his scales were balancing because Steven's no longer there, or if Steven finally accepted who he was and that's why the scales balanced. And I kind of lean towards the latter, because if all of a sudden Steven was now gone, his scales still shouldn't balance because Jake is still in the coffin, I'm pretty sure. The Hippo God, I felt like didn't really do a whole lot in this episode. I thought she was going to have kind of a bigger role, but she was basically just exposition, and not even that much exposition. She just said, hey, yep, you're on a boat of the dead, and I need you to balance these hearts real quick. Otherwise, you're going to go to hell. So that's all she pretty much said. Oh, and she said there's an afterlife and not the afterlife, which means that basically whatever you believe, I guess, is the afterlife that you will go to when you die. Since Steven was a made-up personality, I wonder now that once Khonshu resurrects Marc, is Marc just able to envision Steven again and kind of bring him back in his mind? I don't really understand how that works, because he wasn't actually a different person. He was made up by Marc, so Marc should be able to make him up again, I would think. But anyway, I mean, next episode is the last episode, which, my God, there's so much to happen. I mean, Layla has to free Khonshu to resurrect Marc, and then they're going to have to fight and get Arthur Harrow down to seal Amit away, and potentially rescue Steven as well. So now I'm definitely leaning towards, if Jake Lockley shows up, it's not going to be until the very end of the episode to kind of set up something in season 2. Let me know, what did you think about this episode though? And what do we think? Is Jake coming out to play next episode or not? Anyways, I'm Keegs, and I will catch you all next week for the season finale of Moon Knight.